Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Big Questions, Small Steps. My name is Amanda and I'm so glad that you could join me today. Today's video, we're going to talk about something a little bit different. Something that everyone seems to have an opinion on, and something that is very, very much connected with our parashah or our Torah reading from this past week. It's about miracles and the idea that there were miracles. They're written in the Bible, they're written in the Torah, they're talked about in the Quran. But are there still miracles happening today? Are they happening with the same frequency? If not, why? If so, why? So we're going to talk about miracles today because that's just the topic that came to me. So typically, when you think of miracles or the purpose of miracles, they're either typically sent to reinforce an idea or to show a sense of strength. Okay? So typically when I'm talking about miracles in Judaism, they typically are talking about miracles completed by God. In Islam, it's typically miracles completed by Allah. And frequently in Islam, the miracles also come to prophets within them. And in Christianity, when you think of miracles, typically people think of Jesus doing miracles. And that he did miracles to show his connection. So it's just interesting. But in all the three main faiths that we talk about on this channel, they all have different views on miracles. And you may have your own views on miracles and if they exist, why they exist, how frequently they exist, things like that. So let's talk a little bit about what the scriptures say. And then we're going to talk about, well, are they still happening and what are the different beliefs on it? And then I'll even throw in a little bit about what I believe regarding miracles, okay? So according to scriptures, in the New Testament, Jesus performed 37 miracles. He did many great things, but it was 37 miracles. Now, he changed water into wine at a wedding. He apparently took 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish and he fed thousands of people. He raised people from the dead. He healed people who were sick or blind or lame. They couldn't walk. He was able to use his abilities to prove his connection to the divine in some regards. And some even say that people could have miracles performed for them without even his knowledge. So there was a woman that just believed that if she touched the hem of Jesus' robe, that she would miraculously be healed. He wasn't aware of it. It was during a parade of some sorts, and she did, and she was healed. There are incidents in the New Testament where it says that like disciples of Jesus or believers of Jesus would go and heal other people in Jesus' name. So kind of taking on that leadership role. But Jesus, when he was performing these miracles, it was basically proving his connection to the divine. Proving that he was special, that not everybody could do what he did. That's part of the whole thing. And they say the greatest miracle is his resurrection from the grave. Not everyone, unfortunately, that passes can raise from the dead. They say that's the one true thing that shows that he is divine because he was able to overcome this. Okay, now if you look at the Old Testament, you'll see stories that are similar to stories in the Torah and notations also from the Quran. And that would be miracles such as God creating the world, things that you can't readily explain. The great flood that happened with Noah and wiping out all of humanity. When he was able to send the plagues to Egypt and finally convince the Pharaoh to let the Israelites go. The parting of the Red Sea. When Moses threw his staff down and it turned into a serpent. Those are all different miracles. But it wasn't people doing the miracles in the Old Testament, in the Torah, in the Quran. It was God working through nature. Okay, and it was for God to show his power and his love and his compassion. So there were people certainly that had to be involved in some way, as like, for example, in the story of Moses. Moses threw the staff down because God commanded him to. So God would use people to help his miracles be understood more, help it have more power behind it. But that was the big switch. In the Old Testament Torah and the Quran, it was all about the miracles were from God to help understand his power, his love, his compassion. And in the New Testament, the miracles were typically to help confirm that connection of Jesus to the divine. Okay? That's just the basics connection of it. Now, the question is, well, are there still miracles today? And if you look at the term miracles, typically scholars will say that miracles are things that happen that don't have a scientific reasoning behind them. So many people say, yes, miracles happen every day. There was somebody that just had a brain injury and they were miraculously healed. There was somebody who was dead, pulseless, for 45 minutes. And then miraculously, her family's coming in to say goodbye and she all of a sudden has a pulse. She has no deficits leaving the hospital in just a couple of days. There's all kinds of different things. As recent as September in 2023, there was even a miracle that's being investigated in a Catholic church because they were giving out the Eucharist for communion, the little wafers, and they realized they didn't have enough. And miraculously, as they're issuing out communion, the wafers never ran out. They believe that that's a miracle, that the hosts are multiplying just like they did back when Jesus did it for the 5,000 people with the loaves and the fish. So there are things that are still happening today. Now, whether you claim that they are miracles or coincidences or whatever, that's your decision. That's for God alone to know if they are miracles. It's not my place to judge. In the Catholic tradition, they're the only practice that verifies miracles. So in order to become a saint, you have to witness or be a part of at least 2 miracles. Used to be 3. Pope John Paul II lowered that requirement to just 2. But what happens is if you think there's a miracle, so you see Jesus in your toast, for example, or all of a sudden you went to church and the Virgin Mary statue is bleeding from the eyes, there you contact the church contacts the Vatican, and the Vatican will assign someone on the papal services to come investigate to see if there's a scientific reason behind why this is happening. And then if they can't find a scientific reason, then they may or may not claim that it is a miracle. They may claim that it's not quite a miracle, but it's like an aberration or a deed slightly less than a miracle. Okay? So that is what they can do as far as from the Catholic Church. Now, from the Protestant side, they typically don't go and investigate the miracles. They tend to believe that, well, if you think something special happened, then great for you that you were able to witness a miracle, and they move on. They kind of take it at face value. And in the Quran, they believe that that God is submerged and involved in every affair every day. So let me say that one more time. In every day, God is involved in some affair. So they believe that in every day that they have, God is there and interacting. Whether you deem that as a miracle or not is up to you. It depends more on your spiritual connection at that time and your awareness level. More of your awareness level than anything else. Because if you're looking for that connection, if you're aware of all the blessings that are around you, you have more things happen for you. And in the Jewish culture, they believe that God is basically submerged in nature. So everything that is happening around us, the miracles of the trees changing colors, the miracles of flowers blooming in spring, the miracle of traveling on winter roads safely and arriving at your destination without accident or injury, those are all miracles. There are small things that happen that God has made a huge difference in your life. So it's a slight matter of opinion as to what is a miracle. Now, the other question that some would say is, well, is a miracle something that happens to you or happens for you? And again, that's more of a personal decision. Myself, I personally believe that when you are looking at a situation and you're looking for the good, you're going to see more of the good. It's kind of like if you get a black car, then you're driving down the road and you suddenly realize how many black cars there are. If you're looking for something, you're going to see more of that. So I personally tend to look at everything with open eyes, and I try to see the glory and the beauty in everything around me. Now, sometimes that causes me to be a bit naive, and I get in some sticky situations that I could have avoided if I wasn't so naive, and my amazing boyfriend will attest to that. Sometimes I take people a little bit too freely with what they're offering or their good intentions, and not realizing that not everyone has good intentions. So miracles to me are really about expressing and acknowledging the gratitude for the everyday things that God has provided in our lives. Okay? Now, are they still happening today? I believe they are. It may look differently than it did in biblical times. Typically, you don't hear much about people parting the sea and walking across on dry water. Typically, you don't hear about a flood that covers the entire earth for 40 days and 40 nights. We don't typically hear about that anymore. However, they are constantly finding out new things in science regarding our bodies and medicines and how we can interact with other things and technology. There are all these little nuggets of miracles. And if you accept them for what they have the potential to bring, and accept that they have been given as a gift from God, it's a pretty awesome thing. It's a pretty awesome thing. It all depends, me personally, on your attitude in looking at miracles. Okay? According to the Catholic Church, miracles happen every day. According to the Protestants, miracles happen every day. According to Jewish tradition, miracles happen every day. According to Islamic tradition, miracles happen every day. If you look for good things and you appreciate what you have been given, good things will come to you. I wish you many miracles, many small joys, and lots of love. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.